The temperature has fallen to minus 30 degrees Celsius. You are alone in the forest. The nearest permanent shelter is days away on foot. Night is coming, and with it, 12 hours of darkness and air cold enough to freeze exposed skin in minutes. You have no tent, no sleeping bag, no modern gear. All you have is what your ancestors taught you. All you have is what your ancestors taught you. Gather what you can in the next 2 hours.
The question is, will you survive till dawn?
This was not a hypothetical scenario for indigenous peoples. It was what they lived with, routine to them. Across subarctic forests, Great Plains, and Arctic coast, Native Americans traveled, hunted, and lived. They survived through an integrated system of technology, material science, and cultural knowledge. Every piece of the system addressed a specific threat, and every technique had a reason. You see, the human body loses heat in 4 ways: conduction, convection, radiation, and evaporation. The first defense was clothing. Inuit, Athabascan, and Plains peoples wore layered garments. But the genius was not in the material alone, but also in the construction. The inner layer was worn with fur facing inward, trapping a stable boundary of warm air against the skin. The outer layer was worn with fur facing outward, providing wind resistance and allowing snow to shed. This dual-layer system created an insulating envelope that minimized convective heat loss and managed moisture. The clothing itself required advanced preparation. Women prepared hides through brain tanning, using animal brains to treat skins. The fat content in the brain emulsified and penetrated deep into the collagen fibers of the hide. This transformed the material into something flexible, breathable, and water-resistant. They did this because an untreated hide becomes stiff and brittle when it gets wet and dries. And in sub-zero conditions, that stiffness could mean a death sentence. But the brain-tanned hide remained supple, preventing the garment from failing when exposed to moisture. This was biochemistry applied to survival. Even the best clothing could not compensate for the ground. The frozen earth beneath the snow acts as a thermal mass, radiating cold upward. Lying directly on it triggers conductive heat loss, draining warmth faster than it can be generated.
This is why modern campers use insulated sleeping pads, but Native Americans, they used spruce boughs.
Before settling for the night, travelers harvested armfuls of spruce branches, laying them in thick layers on the snow. These boughs created a compressible mat of trapped air between the sleeper and the frozen ground. Since air is a poor conductor of heat, the springy branches maintained an air gap even under body weight. This simple technique broke the conductive bridge between the human and the earth, preserving core warmth. This wasn't luck. It required knowledge of which trees provided the right density and flexibility. The third defense was terrain. Early communities selected winter campsites with the precision of engineers. Low-lying areas near tree lines, valleys sheltered by hillsides, and positions blocking winds were not casual choices. Wind strips away the thin boundary layer of warm air surrounding the body, called convective cooling. Even a modest wind can drop the effective temperature by 10 or 15 degrees. By positioning camps in naturally sheltered microclimates, indigenous peoples created zones with measurably higher ambient temperatures. Hunters and travelers read wind direction, cloud formations, and animal behavior to predict storms and adjust routes. Their survival was not reactive. They anticipated everything. Fire provided the fourth layer of defense against radiant heat loss. Native Americans used a technique called the long burn fire lay. Logs were stacked in specific configurations, sometimes parallel, sometimes perpendicular, to create a slow, even burn lasting 16 hours or more. The arrangement allowed oxygen to flow, maximizing fuel contact, producing steady, radiant heat with minimal intervention. And when the fire was no longer needed, the embers were banked. Hot coals were covered with ash and dirt, insulating them and slowing combustion to a near halt. The coals remained alive beneath the surface, preserving heat overnight. In the morning, uncovering them eliminated the need to restart a fire from scratch. Some groups also heated stones in the fire, wrapped them in hides, and placed them beneath bedding. These thermal masses radiated warmth for hours, extending the fire's effective range after flames died. But none of these techniques mattered without fuel for the body itself. The human metabolism is a furnace, and in extreme cold, that furnace burns faster. A person at rest in sub-zero temperatures can require twice the caloric intake. Therefore, Native American winter diets were rich in fat and protein. Pemmican, a mixture of dried meat, rendered animal fat, and berries, was the ultimate survival ration. It was lightweight, shelf-stable, and packed with energy. The fat content was especially critical, as fat releases energy slowly, providing sustained warmth. Without adequate caloric reserves, even the best insulation and fire technique would eventually fail. The sophistication of these systems is matched by the cultural framework that ensured their transmission.
Among a northern community in a vast, snow-covered land, the cold was not merely a physical phenomenon.
It was understood as a conscious, sentient force, a spiritual being responding to human behavior.
Elders warned that boasting about one's resilience could provoke it to manifest dangerously frigid weather.
This belief was not superstition. It was a mechanism for enforcing discipline. Overconfidence in extreme environments is often fatal. Framing the cold as a conscious entity demanded humility and respect.
The culture reinforced the meticulous preparation and cautious behavior necessary for survival.
Similarly, the buffalo became a symbol of endurance. In winter storms, buffalo do not flee. They lower their heads and face the wind, enduring the blizzard with patience. Survival in the open required the mental ability to hunker down and withstand discomfort without panic. The buffalo principle transformed cold exposure into a test of character, reinforcing psychological resilience for survival techniques. These methods were not unique. Plains tribes used bison hide, Athabascan groups caribou and moose, Inuit sealskin, but the core principles remained consistent. Defeat conduction with insulation, convection with terrain, radiation with fire. The universality of these strategies suggests they were inherited and refined from shared ancestral knowledge, possibly carried across an ancient land connection by the early inhabitants of the vast land. The knowledge systems that enabled this mastery are called traditional ecological knowledge. They represent generations of observation, experimentation, and cultural transmission. Today, scientists increasingly recognize their value. Indigenous observations of sea ice, animal migration, and fire ecology. Similarly, the buffalo became a symbol of endurance. In winter storms, buffalo do not flee. Every layer of clothing, every spruce bough, Every banked coal solved a specific physical problem. And the system worked because it was complete. Remove one element, and the whole structure weakens. Native Americans did not conquer the cold. Instead, they understood, respected, and built their lives around it, with a precision that modern society is only beginning to appreciate.